and full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to Full Course Yellow in Pit Lane's weekly get-together, where we just sort of, sit around and have a quick chat about, well, not so quick sometimes, about the world of local and international motorsport. Now, what a big weekend it's been. We can't cover everything. Let's face it. I mean, there's so much has happened over the weekend. We've got Formula One, we've got Supercars, MotoGP. We had the Long Beach Grand Prix, IndyCars and IMSA. We've got all sorts of things. And also coming up this weekend, of course, we've got the Bathurst 6 Hour, a huge field for that. We'll try and get onto some of that a little bit later on. The Easter Sprint Car Trail going across the western districts of Victoria and into eastern South Australia. So much, just so very much happening. Opening round of the second round of the World Endurance Championship at Imola. But let's find out. Let's talk to the people who are basically doing the talking this week. And as I say, I've just walked through the door, so I'm well and truly flummoxed. We've got Craig, not let it go. We've got Richard Outram, and from Queensland, the King of Queensland himself, Mark Jones. Good day, everyone. How are we?
Good evening, Brett.
Evening, Chief. I think you just missed the election, and that's it. We're all done for the night. Have a good night, everyone. See you next week. We've run out of time already.
Oh, God,
congratulations, Geordie, on winning at Long Beach.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. So,
yes,
tell us quickly about that. That was it.
Historic. IndyCars. He won the first race and was leading the second race and ran out of fuel.
Oh.
But had a wonderful time. He's ecstatic, absolutely.
As you would be.
The amount of people he knows and meets these days is just mind-boggling.
So was that a tariff on the fuel that actually stopped him from filling it up enough, or was it because of the deportation of the Mexicans and he didn't have enough crew, or I'm just throwing some ideas out there.
Not enough potatoes.
Not enough baked potatoes. Okay, right, cool. I need not enough sour cream, onion powder, and cheese.
Well, I think the fact that I think baked potatoes are probably the last thing on his list when you consider sort of the state of fitness he's in these days. I mean, he certainly looks after himself so he could get into all those cars that he gets. But as we've said so many times, he's come a long way from his time working with us behind the scenes at In Pit Lane in at RMI TV as a sort of 15 or as a 16 or 17-year-old, and so he's done a fabulous job. So I didn't see much about that, but of course it was the 50th anniversary of Long Beach, so you had the IndyCars there. You also had Formula 5000. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any footage. I went hunting for it, and I didn't see anything anywhere because they had the 5000s there, and old Formula One cars and old Indy cars, all sorts of things that have run over the 50 years. So it'd be a great thing to see.
Oh, you forgot to mention Goodwood members was on too.
Oh, God, yeah.
Sorry, we should just call it a night.
I think IndyCar was on, which you could skip that, but never mind.
There was also some stuff on water.
NASCAR, I should say.
We should mention that. Anyway, we can't cover everything. Brett is right. We could be here for hours.
Yeah, that's very.
Shane isn't doing well on the NASCAR, so if it could go wrong, it is going wrong.
Yeah, he certainly hit a. I mean, it was always going to be a big jump. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it was a huge jump for him to sort of with the ovals. Obviously, when he gets back onto the road courses, and particularly when he goes to Chicago, he'll feel more at home. I mean, and I'm sure he'll put in another great performance there. But the ovals are a very different thing, and lots of far more experienced drivers than Shane have had trouble coming totally to terms with that. So.
Ambrose did exactly the same. Ambrose was always wiped the four of them on the road courses and struggled on ovals.
I just don't think he's getting a car which is well suited to him. They're not preparing it well for him.
Well, that's the other thing. You never know. I mean, it's a fairly new. I mean, they've been around for a while, Trackhouse, but they've not been. They've never really been a top team. I mean, it was Shane that gave them that win and sort of promoted them up into the next level. So he did obviously he's done a fantastic job, and he's over there for the long haul now. I mean, basically he's relocated there. I mean, because as much as anything, his partner is in charge of international racing for sports car racing for Chev. So Jess isn't coming back in a hurry. So if he wants to make a career over there. I'm sure he's relishing the challenge as well, because it's been sort of rinse and repeat over here for quite a few years, and now he's got a real challenge, something he can get his teeth into, and if and when he does sort of break through and find the magic solution that makes it possible, he'll be very happy and very satisfied with what's going on.
At the moment, if a stray nut or bolt gets loose on the track, he seems to cop it through the radiator or through the tyre. Or if it could go wrong, it's going wrong for him. Only two people crash. He's the third one to pile into the back of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Last week was his fault, but.
Yeah. We'll say hello to some of the box joining us again. Yes, we'll talk about the British media. That's raised its ugly head yet again.
Even Hughesy jumped on board that one. He had the
he did it last week. It's become sort of obviously it was a very popular sort of short for him because he's jumped back on again. But I mean even this time I've been sort of prepared. To sort of say I think there's a lot of people sort of reading things into it, but there were a few things on the weekend that have been raised, and something that I watched that sort of made my blood boil, and we'll talk about that in a second. But g'day to Mark Russell, he's joining us once again. G'day to you. Mark's up your way. It looks like they're talking about Lakeside Park, a washout last Saturday. So so there you go. There, but Trevor joining us as well. There, we're saying
round 3.
And I just realised I've been on mute this whole time.
There you go. I wonder why you were so quiet.
I was just saying, we did get a bit of weather on Saturday through the southeast Queensland. It hit the north side of Brisbane rather than the south side. We got a bit of weather. I was at Queensland Raceway. There were 2 racetracks running at the same time. So Lakeside got most of it.
I think it's
your answer there,
I think it's
Mark.
Richard's Mark. Mark is just his chair. There's a bear in there.
Okay, I'll try and stay still. I don't think I can, but
he can't afford the oil. I mean, he's a humble Hyundai Excel
oil.
racer. I mean,
he's got to go cheaper than that. It's grease he needs, not oil. He needs grease. And it's usually Mark's eating. Mark's having a chomp away. Sometimes that gets on the nerves of the people watching and listening. And this time it's the chair tonight. Oh well.
Anyway, let's talk about Bahrain on the weekend. Another win to Oscar Piastri, and like I said, he dominated. What really pissed me off, I mean, as you say, Hughesy and other people have jumped on board, and I really like after the race, Ted Kravitz does his sort of pit walk and his notebook, his Formula One notebook.
He stuffed that up a couple of weeks ago. He self-admitted he stuffed his own notebook. He said, I missed this from Ferrari, and I missed this in this pit box, and I missed that, and I missed that. So anyway, he's a bit off the boil at the moment on his own notebook, and that's self-admitted.
Yeah, well, I just didn't like there because it was his basic opening line to introduce the thing was basically, a whole bunch of little problems and a rare mistake from Lando Norris allowed Oscar Piastri to take the win. And I just thought, no, he wasn't allowed to do it. He sat on pole. He qualified first. He led from start to finish. He was totally in control. Lando made some mistakes. Lando got copped copped a deserved penalty for stuffing up the start.
Yes,
Either
exactly.
way, it was really, and the whole thing afterwards. I mean, also all the other stuff at Sky Sport. As soon as they came after the presentation, it was like, okay, well, let's talk about the big news. What happened to Lando? What went wrong for Lando, and why didn't Lando? And they spent a good sort of 30 minutes talking about Lando. And suddenly like, oh, and by the way, here's the winner, Oscar Piastri.
So just on that
Who
subject,
benefited from that good luck,
Did anyone watch the Lando post-race interview that went just for a couple of minutes or a few minutes? Did anyone watch that? Because
I didn't see
without
it.
all the conjecture and all the carry-on and the experts and the fans or whoever it may be, the interview they did with Lando afterwards and said, so basically how is today and what's going wrong at the moment? He said, well, at the moment, I've just lost it. He said, I can't get, I don't know what you call it, mojo, or I've just lost his edge or whatever it may be. He says, I'm trying hard. I'm trying this. I'm trying that. I just can't quite get it over the line. There's just little things that I just keep thinking like this comes up or that comes up, or I just can't do this or I can't do that. He just said, look, and in his dejected way, he said it as usual, but he said, if I could just get all my ducks in a row again, I'll start bloody out before going great guns. He said, but at the moment, I just can't get it all right, and that's the end of the story. So all this other carry on by everyone, including I agree with you, Brett, saying understating some of the mistakes and all the stuff that goes on. It's all about, well, yeah, totally ridiculous. It's Lando says, I just haven't got it at the moment. I've got to find my way back.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's unfortunate. I mean that the focus has been on Lando making a mistake, but that's why I always said I thought that Oscar will. If you once again when you listen to him as he crosses the line, he's delighted to win, but that's his job. He's very focused. He's very.
Pumping.
And
I saw the fist pumping the right arm.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day or at the end of the season, providing things go, if it's close at the end and Lando, and it comes down to a straight out fight, which it probably will between Lando and Oscar, I think that Oscar's just, I think his head's in a far, far better place than Lando, who I think sort of, when the going gets tough, he starts whinging and moaning and complaining and, this is wrong, that, whereas Oscar just, puts his head down and drives. I think he'll, and he's had so much success in every other championship that he's entered. I think it'll, it's just his focus in terms of, this is my job. I'm here to race cars. I'm here to win races. Really happy. Won that one. Let's move to the next one now. Without sort of, getting all sort of, over the top excited, providing the team does the right thing. I think they will, but that was another thing with the British media. I think it was Autosport magazine came out and wrote about it was almost like gee, none of us expected this. I mean, we just assumed Lando was going to walk away and win the championship because he's clearly the best driver in clearly the best car, but just these unfortunate things that have got and have once again, sort of let his less experienced teammate Oscar Piastri in for a couple of shock wins. Third
year as well too. So Oscar's start to grab the scruff of the neck.
But anyway, right, Mark.
Oh, I was just saying there's a rather amusing meme going around reusing John Lennon's story about when asked about is Ringo Starr the best drummer in the Beatles, and the response is that Lando isn't even the best. Is Lando the best driver in the world? No, he's not even the best driver in McLaren.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's very very true. But I think Oscar has got it all over him. I think in terms of the performance and let's strike. He shouldn't. Hopefully he'll strike while the iron's hot, and they won't have too much problem because I would think that McLaren at some stage McLaren may have to make a call. It'll be interesting to see how long they let it sort of brew. I mean, do they if it goes down, do they let them fight it out to the very last round, or is there at some point where one or the other is sort of more comfortably in front, and they say, okay, like they did last year, we need to focus on Oscar or we need to focus on Lando. and whether Oscar's going to get that advantage.
McLaren doesn't exactly have great history with this.
No.
And I don't just mean Senna and Prost, because you remember the 1984 World Championship was resolved between Lauda and Prost by half a point after half points were awarded at the Monaco Grand Prix with the race progressing there through a monsoon. But yeah, it's. I mean, of course, there's nobody left at McLaren these days that was there in the days of Ron Dennis and co. But nonetheless, you would hope that they might have learned a little bit from the experience of managing equally matched drivers. I mean, I suppose when they had David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen, although no, to be fair, Hakkinen was number one compared to Coulthard, so that's less of a comparison, I suppose.
The other interesting thing, we'll move on from that, is that it seems that the wheels are almost literally falling off at Red Bull. One of the things that came up in Ted's notebook was he was witness to or claims to be witness to Max Verstappen's manager confronting in a very, very angry way Helmut Marko and basically reminding him very loudly and to make sure that everybody could hear that Max does have a performance clause in his contract, which basically, at some stage says, if Max is of the opinion that the team is not providing him with a car that can win races and win championships, Max can walk, and it's becoming increasingly sort of focused on will Max hang around if he keeps having races like that and they don't make some pretty big improvements fairly soon. He might walk, although obviously he's won a race this year, I mean, through his own incredible talent, but...
And it was the preceding race, it wasn't... It wasn't something that had happened a month ago. It was 2 weeks ago, and it's a stance that doesn't stand water now. That doesn't mean it won't stand water in 2 months' time.
Well, that's it. I mean, everyone. It's such a merry-go-round and jumping at shadows. Like as you're saying, it's 1 week ago, but some people make it out to be 2 months ago in a heartbeat. Don't choke on us there, please, Jonesy. Or it's not that bad. But serious. But yeah, I mean, they could become the third or the fourth best team of the championship in the manufacturers stakes. Max is still, probably arguably the best driver in the world at the moment, and he just doesn't have the car underneath him. But we've got to remember, different tracks have different cars. There'll be different upgrades. Some of them will go, have better races. Some of them will make mistakes as well too. So there's all these variables where Max can still stay relevant. But yeah, I mean, if he wants to have an itsy fit in himself and say, right, this clause says I haven't had a car that's been in the top 5 for 3 races. Who knows what the clauses are? But it's only probably privy to himself and his manager, and maybe the hierarchy at the top of Red Bull. But so it's a case of, they will continue to jump at shadows, and if they don't within the team, Max or his own management, the media will do it for him and beat it up just to make it sound like it's a lot worse than what it really is.
Yeah, I think that's it. Obviously, the media are always looking for an angle somewhere, but it'll be interesting to see. It seems that it doesn't seem to be a happy place. It's believed that there was, quote, crisis meetings held after the race where a number of people, including Marko and Tim Horner and a few of the senior executives and technical people at Red Bull got together and sort of said, okay, we know there's a problem. Max has we've had the feedback from 3 drivers in terms of Max, Yuki, and Liam, in terms that there is a battle to get this car to be consistent and to run to the level of performance that we want it to run to. So we need to make some improvements. But as Tim Horner said, you can't just pull it out of thin air, and it's like it's coming back to haunt them now. I mean, they don't have. They can't just make a phone call to Adrian and say, Adrian, this, can you fix this? And Adrian can put his mind to it and do something about it. It might just turn out that without, perhaps Adrian was the secret sauce in making that car so good over so many years.
Anyway, I think it's unfair the way they're treating Marco. I mean, Marco has been such an inspiration and a kind and gentle soul. I don't know why this happens to him. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think you've had too many Red Bulls today, Richard. Way too many Red Bulls today.
I've heard more sincere comments on the hustings at federal election launches.
I'm just going to say, I'm going to go right there. I'm going to go the election platform here too, and saying, look, I think all those people that have actually put themselves for election for this coming up on the start of May, every comment they've made, I believe them every word they say after that, Richard.
Yeah, especially when they reverse themselves within a week.
Every promise they've made, I can.
Sorry,
but anyway, let's move on. We've got a lot to get through. Supercars
Supercars.
Yes, at Taupo in New Zealand. I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't see a lot of it because I saw the race on Saturday. Haven't seen any of the action from Sunday because Doc and I were down at the National Motorsport Centre watching the Australian Drag Boat Championships and doing some filming down there, and then I've just had so many other things on the plate at the moment with so much motorsport to look at. I didn't get back to it, but congratulations to Matt Payne. Really, obviously something that would mean a lot to him, winning in his home country and winning with the tag of the Jason Richards Trophy. Because of course Jason, we lost Jason to cancer a number of years ago, and one of the nice guys of supercar racing, was hugely respected and loved by everybody in the paddock and by the media and everybody. And the handful of times that we had him on the show, and that we, my sort of meetings with him and interaction over the years was nothing other than fabulous. And so it obviously meant a lot to him. So well done to Matt. But the other talking point was the crowd. It was well down on previous years, and they have one year to go of their contract. But even now, Tony Quinn is sort of saying, perhaps there might be a way we can sort of get out of it early and make that jump to Hampton Downs and Raupuna a little bit earlier, sooner rather than later, because they were well down. It was like well over, I think it was something like 16 or 17,000 under what they were the first year.
It's a little. New Zealanders have always been very enthusiastic supporters of the Supercars events. I'm wondering if there's any kind of speculation as to what the cause of the drop in attendance is.
Well, this was always the surprising thing about it's very, very similar. Taupo is very similar in many respects to Phillip Island, and we know that they can't get crowds down to Phillip Island, and that is it's a major tourist attraction in its own right, without having any major events, without having any races. There are people come from all over New Zealand and all over the world to spend time at Taupo. And the accommodation is very heavily booked at the best of times. Apparently, the cost to stay there was ridiculous. It's not as if it's far enough away from the major places like Auckland and Hamilton, those sort of Wellington and those sorts of places, that it's not sort of let's go out to watch the Supercars this afternoon. It's a major drive. And there and back. So I think that
Jonesy,
was the
I reckon
argument.
you've raised a very important question then, and you just said, I wonder what the speculation is. And with all due respect to everyone's opinion, I would like to see not what Supercars think why they think the reasons are down, the crowd is, not what we think over here across the ditch. Anyone in Australia, whether it be supporters of the supercars or media like that. What I would like to know is actually ask the New Zealanders, people over there themselves, on why they think the crowd is down and why they didn't go. So that would be, I reckon, probably your best answer to that question you asked, Mr. Jones.
Well,
everybody else is irrelevant. Ask them themselves. They'll probably be able to tell you why they can't.
That was the thing that's come online already from a lot of them. A lot of them who said for the first one we went, it was a great event. It was a one-off. We can't afford to do that every year. Somebody said basically for 3 nights accommodation over there, they were paying around $1,400 to $1,600, and that's if you could get anything. So a lot of them just went, nah, look, we're not gonna bother. We're not gonna bother going back.
So the answer is, you say, Brett, according to the New Zealanders, the answer is 93 cents over there. Because that's what the dollar. That's what the New Zealand. I just looked it up. That's what the New Zealand dollar is worth Australian right now. So it's not to us. It's 93 cents is the reason why they didn't go over there. That's all right then. Apparently that's the reason then.
Well, I mean, it's multiples of that 93 cents. It basically means, once again, it's out of the reason. Ticket prices are high, food prices are high. It costs a lot of money in petrol to get there. It's not particularly accessible. If you want to. If you want to go in there, it's not like you can just jump on a train and head on over there. It's very expensive, and that's
it all comes down to one thing: 93 cents. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what 93 cents has got to do with it, but
93 cents in a dollar. That means they've only got, as you said, multiples of 93 cents. They can't afford every dollar they've got in New Zealand. They've got to pay this. They've got to do that. They've got to do this and that. Otherwise, and they've got to live. They've got to pay bills. And they've got to go. If they want to go to the track, they've got to pay for that. They've got to come. So it's just out 90. All it comes down to do how much money they've got. 93 cents a dollar.
Yeah, well, it's the same as everything. And as I said, it's very much the same as Phillip Island. I mean, Supercars tried Phillip Island time and time again. And this is the thing. If you want, we found out that unfortunately, if as much as people don't like, a lot of people don't like street circuits, and I would much rather the money being spent on, proper dedicated racetracks. The fact is, they're all in the middle of bloody nowhere, apart from Sandown. They're all in the middle of nowhere. You can't get to them by public transport. You can't get to them easily, even by car. If you want to go to, any of these rounds at these, traditional racetracks, you're going to be driving 2 and 3 hours sometimes, or you're staying overnight, and it's going to cost you a shitload of money. So whereas, if they have for events like Townsville and Adelaide and all these street circuits, it's basically, if you live in the area, they're in the middle of a huge suburban or a huge population. It's very easy to just jump on a train or a tram or whatever and just head straight into town. Same with the Gold Coast. I mean, Jonesy. If you want to go down to the Gold Coast, you jump on a train and you're there in what? Half an hour, 45 minutes.
No.
Okay. How long does it take?
Maybe 2 hours.
Oh, okay. I didn't think it was that far.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fair way down the coast. Comparing Brisbane to Gold Coast is kind of like comparing Sydney to Wollongong.
Yeah, well, that's not that far in the grand scheme of things, but it is. It's just, if you want.
It's an hour by car to get to Queensland Raceway.
That's what I've done. Yeah.
From my part of the city. And admittedly,
that's pretty good.
10 minutes from Lakeside, so there's swings and roundabouts, of course.
Yeah.
The public transport to the Gold Coast Indy cars does exist, but it's a train. It's from wherever you start, a train from the city, and then you've got to switch over to bus and tram as needed. So it's not the train will not get you straight to the Gold Coast by itself. There is it's it's a significant bite out of a day trip if you're attending the Gold Coast race as a day trip. It's public
And the
transport will
thing is,
take a
people are so
fair bite
time
out of
poor.
it.
People are
It's
so
not
time
Phillip
poor
Island bad,
nowadays.
you know.
Yeah, well, people are just so time poor. I mean, I'm not. I'll give you a like Friday night out at Calder Park for the first round of the new roll racing championships out there. They had an amazing crowd again. Like it was a huge crowd. Actually caused some problems here and there in terms of being able to, the infrastructure, because no one, the crowds have been steadily growing bigger, but this was a seriously big crowd. I was told, like for an event like that, I mean, it wasn't 50,000 or 20,000 or anything like that. It was about, the estimation was it was about 8,000 spectators turned up, which is a good, healthy night for basically just watching, mostly hotted up street cars, a few competition cars, but basically hotted up street cars. They had a huge crowd there in terms of getting out there. But, Calder Park is only sort of, 30 minutes, outside of Melbourne. They can get there easy. Whereas if it had been, but the thing was, racing starts at 6. Most of the crowd and a lot of the competitors got in and didn't get in until around 7. The actual finals were held like around sort of start. The actual final was held about 5 minutes to 11 o'clock, which is when the curfew kicks in. By that time, that 8,000 people was down to about probably less than 1,000. People came in, they got there at 7 o'clock, they hung around until about 8:30 or 9, and then they were gone. There was just a steady stream out the door as soon as it got a bit dark, and it was like, okay, we've seen enough, we've got other things to do now. And then we saw it on Sunday at the drag boats as well. They watched a couple of runs, they were there until about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, suddenly half the cars are disappearing out of the place, even though there were still runs and still. That was before the finals even ran.
Well, yeah, there's a format for you go football only takes half a day. You go to the footy. It's an afternoon. It's not a whole day event. 2020 cricket took that time period and applied it to cricket, cut it from 5 days to 1 day, now to half a day for 2020 cricket, and the crowd numbers exploded. We'd seen jumps in various other sports where they've tried a short format, and they've gotten some reward for that. But there's never been such a thing as, like, motor racing has always been a full day event. The drags and speedway, of course, have their evening format, and that works for them. Like you see, sprint cars will get, and the old Thunderdome was much the same as well. There were it was an evening, it was half a day, not a full day, and it's there's never been an appetite to explore that in circuit racing at all.
I mean, we've had some one-day meetings. I mean, like at a state level, and it's still a full day. But in terms of, I mean, even for us, I mean, sort of, Doc and I, because of one reason or another at the moment, I can't physically do a whole day anymore. And it was like, what time do we get there? Do we want to be there? We want to film the finals. What time do the finals start? Do we have enough time to get our interviews and all the rest of it? So we get there and say, okay, let's leave it until, 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that. And basically by the time the finals came around, I was in a pretty bad way, to be brutally honest with you. I mean, I got home and I was seriously ill, because we'd just been there for so long, and so waiting around. But like, obviously, there's problems with like with breakdowns and all the rest of it. But I think that they've got to examine ways of just making and also just the number of support categories, particularly in Australia compared with other, like this was what I loved about like racing in France. You go to a race meeting in France and there's 4 categories. There's a main category, there's a chief support category, and there's a couple of warm up. The racing starts at about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it finishes at about 5. And
you go to a Formula 1 race, and they've got Formula 2 and Formula 3, and not always both of them, and Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah,
and plus whatever one or two local categories that sometimes will be, and it's not exclusively that they have that they'll have a local category. Like all the Middle East races tend to have, like you'll have the equivalent Carrera Cup race, like the Carrera Cup Asia or Carrera Cup Middle East, and that will generally be about it.
Yeah,
The
it's
Bahrain
hard to
that we
say.
just had both
Yeah.
F2 and F3, so they explore outside of course, they came to Australia as well, so that was round 2 for both
The
of them,
problem
wasn't it?
is we just don't have enough racetracks and enough people to sort of be able to spread out the demand for. And then now we've got all of these one make series and all of these different categories, and the Motorsport Australia and Double ASA and this first gear and last gear and other in neutral whatever the hell it is. You've got all of these different people fighting for limited time on limited tracks, and they've got to pay for it all. So if you want to, I think it was Doc and I went down to one of the Phillip Island Access meetings at the start of the year, and the guys down there said, "Look, we might have to knock these on the head because it's costing us a bloody fortune. We just don't have enough cars to to go. And there's because
What
you
you're
can't
just
have
saying, what you two are
spectators.
just been saying about having half day stuff, unfortunately, financially, it's just not
Yeah,
viable because if you're going to have to
either.
hire a track for a day, you've got to have a full day of whatever it be on the card, so that covers the cost of it. So that way, whether it's spectators are involved for insurance or not in purpose, it doesn't matter. But you've got to pay for the track for the day. And look, we can go into the politics of stuff where they lose money and gain money, which Brett and I know a little bit about when it comes to the organisations. But yeah, so what it comes down to, you just basically got to plan your day and say, right, we're going to go down there at this time. We're going to miss this, and you're going to have to prioritise it. It's like going to Moomba. We had a couple of weeks ago. Was okay. I want to see the water skiing. I want to take the kids to the fun park, but we're going to have to skip this event or that show or the parade at Birrarong Ma or whatever you may be. So you're going to, unfortunately, if you want to limit the amount of time you spend on anything in life, you've got to pick and choose. It's like going to Soundwave, for example, at Flemington Racecourse years ago,
Yeah.
when Soundwave and all these concerts are on. You've got about 30, 40 bands on about 5 or 6 different stages, all at different times. And you've got to rock up and you've got to plan your day beforehand. If you want to go and see Garbage and The Offspring and Linkin Park and Metallica and Blink 182 and all these ones are all on at once, which they were that year. I saw most of these ones. You're going to have to plan your day and on what stage. So it's just simple as that in life.
I think there's actually 2 separate issues there, really, because an amateur motor racing isn't really the concern of spectator. I mean, okay, that's poorly phrased. The people running amateur motorsport aren't really concerned about spectators because it's run for the competitors. They're not running a race meeting for people to show up and spectate at. Whereas national level motor racing is where the concern of spectators is much more important. So it's like what goes on at where all these various one make series might be racing isn't necessarily a spectator issue, because it's a bunch of like Ferrari Challenge, for example. They're not chasing spectators. They're a bunch of guys who want to go and race these Ferrari race cars that they own. So they're not looking to show off in front of 10,000 people at the track. It's
Well, increasingly you've got categories. I mean, we had like just recently like the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series at Sydney Motorsport Park. That was there were no spectators allowed, and that's the same with the August Access meetings down at Phillip Island. Because of the insurance cost and all the infrastructure that they've got, and security. And that was one of the problems at Calder Park. I mean, that's how I knew that sort of how many people were there, because somebody from security came around and said, "Guys, this is insane. I mean, we're just there's just too many people here so you're going to have to put on more people." And And once again, more people means more expense. And what if they don't get 8,000 people? What if there's a bit of rain around and they get 700 people, and you've employed 25 security guards to you get what do they get? They can hold each other's hands and take you around the place and give you guided tours. But apart from that, it's really hard. But yeah, I think it's sort of at the top level though. I mean, when you're talking Formula One and supercars, and everybody, like as we said before, supercars is not amateur motorsport. It's not even motorsport in many respects. It is a major investment from a private investment company, and it's entertainment, and it thrives on getting large crowds and putting on a show that's going to get people to come through the gates and pay their money, and also enough people who watch it on television to make it worthwhile. But anyway, talking about
you've just got to look at your clientele there as well. Obviously, I've been to many of F1 Grand Prix in Australia for many years now, and especially the last 2-3 years, I've been involved with patron services. You've got the Supercars and the Carrera Cup 2 races at the end of most days on the Friday or definitely on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, especially Friday, Saturday. I'm telling you, 90% of the crowd's gone.
Yeah,
that's no kidding. The F1 crowd does not necessarily hang around for the Carrera Cup or the Supercars. In fact, they actually hang around more for the Carrera Cup than they do with the Supercars. The crowd just tapers off. I reckon the stands are about 10% full for those races at the end of the day, because either one, they're not interested, or two, they've had enough for the day.
Yeah, I think it's 6 to 1 and half a dozen of the other, because as we know, it's a very different group. Now, I was talking to somebody just recently, a young girl who was telling me she was a huge Formula One fan, but she didn't know any of the cars. She didn't know anything about how fast the cars. She didn't know how they were powered. She didn't know any of the but she was a huge Formula One fan because of that. Because of the Drive to Survive thing. And I just love Oscar Piastri, and I think he's so cute. That's one of the things they're calling it. In Italy now, they're calling it the Kimi Antonelli effect. That suddenly there's teenage girls swooning over Formula One because they're all fallen in love with Kimi Antonelli. So
Oh, well, yeah, that reminds of, say, the 1990s, where the most popular athlete in the world was Michael Jordan, and maybe as many as a quarter of the people who said that had no idea what sport he played.
yes, you can imagine that. But anyway, Richard, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I remember a time when I was at the F1s, and there was a couple of Japanese girls holding up a sign as I've forgotten his name. It was so many years ago now, and they're doing the parade of drivers around, and these two girls are frantically waving a sign, and so my wife goes, "Girls, what's on the sign?" And they go, "Ooh, very naughty," and the poor driver was blushing red and hiding under the seat of the car. So yeah, it's always attracted people who didn't know anything about the sport.
Yeah, that's very true. But something that's at the opposite end of the spectrum, as we mentioned it before, coming up this weekend, the Bathurst 6 Hour, and what a packed what a packed weekend that's going to be, and what packed fields. We got 72, I think, in the 6 Hour race, but we've also got 41 Trans Am cars turning up. Yeah, so an incredible turnout. So the idea of seeing both of them, but 41 Trans Am cars racing over the top of the mountain would be such a. So I really would love to have been able to have gone up there. It's going to be an amazing.
They've got form for hitting each other at the moment too, so just add some concrete walls.
And there's an additional rivalry as well, because it's a round for both TA2, both the Australian Trans Ams and TA2 Australia. So it's a combined grid of two Otherwise, separate racing series.
Which once again shows united we stand, divided we fall. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we had that sort of turnout at every round of Trans Am Championships, and they were all running? But it's like the days of IndyCar and Champ Car, where one thing because they want we want round gear shift knobs, and no, we want more sort of triangular gear shift knobs, and we're not going to compromise. So
I like your election policy, Brett, but not every track can fit them on them. That many.
Well, that's true, but you know
there's
what I'm
additionally
saying,
one series is pro-am and the other series is amateur. So there's the competitor base in the two series have different ambitions.
Yeah, I suppose just from a spectator point of view, you'd love to see those sort of figures. I mean, let's face it though, the Trans Am series, the fields, for the first round in Tasmania were fabulous. Were pretty good anyway. They weren't 41, but they were still over 30, I think. So that's a series that is just that is just taking off absolutely gangbusters, and that'll be spectacular to watch. And then of course I don't think it really matters, sort of. I think obviously, we're pretty certain that a BMW is going to win the 6 hour. Don't really know which one, but it sort of doesn't matter because the thing of it's class racing. There'll be battles within battles, and they're right throughout the field, and there'll be different sort of cars you'll look at and go, oh yeah, I love that's I've got to imagine they're racing that, so. Yeah, it'll be a good day. So it's going to be a huge,
and it's still
huge
we've
weekend.
We've had 3 or 4 entrants who've scratched themselves for a variety of reasons, and but we're still at 72 entries because there are teams out there queuing up that couldn't get in, and it has become the Bathurst of the 1960s, where there were race teams queuing up to get into the race and couldn't. So
and
you
had
reserves
as well. I mean, we've got a lot of the top supercar drivers have put their hand up, and also people from the past or the recent past, and people just on the periphery have put their hand up and are running in all sorts of things because they just want to be a part of it because it's obviously such a fun meeting to be a part of.
That's exactly what it comes down to. It's such a fun. It's a breakaway from the usual day-to-day rigmarole, and they can go out and do something different. And it's in a totally a little bit less regulated atmosphere, and they can go and have fun. You hit the nail right in the head there.
Anytime you can run around Bathurst at race speed is a great day.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Sort of, you're
unregulated.
You're out there for a lot of time, and I imagine that there are a lot of people who'd be obviously and are prepared to pay that money to turn up and do that, to have that experience. So that's coming up on the weekend.
Just to add to that, like improved productions also on the entry list. So Circuit XLs. So that's another 2 huge grids.
Mm.
And Pulsar's not a small grid. Sorry?
41 XLs.
Exactly,
I couldn't get in because I had 51 a few years ago. I could have got a grid spot, but no, I got dropped off because the 40-odd people left on the grid have all got more money than me. But hey, that's always been the way, hasn't it? It's never been any different.
And Group N historic touring cars as well, that won't be a small grid.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun to watch as well. They're always good. So the big Mustangs and Camaros and all the rest of it, and a few sort of Minis and Lotus Cortinas going over the top nice and down through the
and Pulsars too.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, okay, Pulsars on. Gee, so it really would be great. I mean, a lot of people said, it's a bit like the Le Mans Classic. I mean, when we went to Le Mans, everybody who were regulars at Le Mans said, you must come back from the Classic. You must come back for the Classic. It's so much fun. Everybody sort of at the 12 hour or so, lots of people at the 12 hour were saying, oh, you really should come back here for the 6 hour. It's just a fabulous weekend because it's Easter and that was the original plan, was to sort of head up there and basically we do we've got a break from from our show, from the Tune Up, our new music show on Channel 31, Fridays at 8 o'clock. And incidentally, thank you to the people who've already got in touch and said how much they enjoyed the first episode. But
awesome.
But we've got a break over tomorrow night, and it was like the plan was, first things Thursday morning. If I'd have been fit enough, and if the car had been fit enough, but at the moment it's sort of, as I said, it's a bit of a it's a bit of a competition at the moment to see between Getsy and myself as which one's going to conk out first. So, and a trip up to Bathurst and back might take both of us out. So unfortunately, not going to get there. But it does, especially to camp up there. But I think that'd be great. I mean, go up there, camp there for the 4 days, and just I think it'd be a fabulous weekend.
There is a bit of competition down here for it, though.
Well, we've got the Easter Sprint Car trial happening down at Warrnambool,
and another one, and another thing as well. There's something I've done. Bells Beach. Thank you.
Oh well, I mean we're not talking motor.
They race cars at Bells Beach.
Well, I'm saying it's still a sport, still popular. Something I've been to many times myself, and anyway, it's still it's going to say it is still a sport anyway.
Yeah, and I got the story. I mean, obviously we've got install gift and all, and all the footy and all the rest of it. So there's absolutely so much to do. But it's going to be a big weekend.
Pakenham Auto Club as well too.
Oh yes, we must remember that. We gave it a plug last week. The Pakenham Auto Club coming up this Friday, Good Friday, out at their grounds. They certainly thanked us for the plug last week, so we'll certainly give it a plug again. They really they did a
see if I can find it.
Yeah, no, I've got
you got that graphic, have you?
Yeah, I've got the graphic.
Good stuff. Good on you.
So can't cost $10. You can jump in. You can jump in alongside one of the drivers there and go hooning around the Carnacross track there, the dirt, and getting it nice and sideways and having an awful lot of fun. And all the proceeds go, of course, to the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal, which obviously is a really big.
Might have to take my helmet. I've got 2 or 3 helmets here I use for my bikes. I might have to, if I don't take my bike down, just at least take a helmet down and jump in and ride shotgun.
Yeah, and there's also a number of other sort of motoring and car related things built around the Good Friday appeal. I know that there's a couple of car shows like hot rod runs and custom car shows and meetings getting together. I think there's a big one down Docklands Way. So get online. There's stuff happening. If you're in Victoria, I mean, you pretty much you can't move on a Good Friday without sort of somebody sticking a can in your face and wiggling it about. So get behind it and
Just before we move on to the next one, just quickly, I'm just going to 30 seconds of MotoGP was on the weekend. We had Qatar. So, big one over there in the Middle East, like we had F1 in Bahrain. So that's just down the road there in Qatar. I'll start from the top. Marc Marquez is back to his dominating best, so he won the event. Just won't go too far into it. There was also a sprint race on the Saturday. However, probably the 2 biggest things that concern us, so I don't ramble on, and we're already getting up towards an hour already, was Mr. Thriller Miller, Jackie Boy. Had a disappointing Saturday. Sunday, he said we just had little issues all weekend. The right side would turn and feel fine. I'd feel secure on that. If I'd turn the left, so vibrations and that. So, Jack didn't have the best of weekends, and he was the first DNF on the Sunday of the 4 of them that wiped out. And he said he was just so annoyed with himself because it was just a slow tip over and just dragged. And he was the first to go. And basically, he said he got into the back of Jorge Martin's, not wash, but into the dirty side of the track because Jorge had just passed him. And he said he just washed out underneath him. And speaking of that's the other big news was Jorge Martin, comeback race, all the conjecture, all the carry-on that's been going on, all the hype. He did race. He had a good weekend, but also crashed out. But crashed out more than everyone else put together because he had a punctured lung or collapsed lung for that reason and 6 broken ribs. So he's definitely going to be out for at least a race, maybe 2, if anything. Depends on how sore he pulls up from all those bruisings. So there you go.
Yeah, I actually got to see this today. I didn't see any of it because of the time and all of this. I didn't actually get to see it when it happens. I hadn't caught up with it, but I went coming back from the doctors today. I called in to grab something to eat for the local RSL, and it was up on the screen, and I was sitting there sort of while I was having lunch. I was sitting there watching, and my my glass of soda water. Yeah, you heard me right. So I was sitting there, sort of, watching that, and it was a good way to spend. Good way to, I must say, from a television point of view, and I know there's been a lot of comments, even within the industry, because I had this conversation with some of the people involved. Lots of conversation about the Fox Footy graphics and how people the bad reaction towards them from a lot of people. I think the graphics package, because this is the first MotoGP round I've actually seen, I think, this year. The graphics package for MotoGP I thought was really, really good. They haven't done anything radical, but they've just, they've tidied it up. They've made it more modern. It was clean. It was easy to read. I thought it was a really, really good package. So if you're doing any live streaming out there and you want to sort of get some inspiration, yeah, take a look at the MotoGP graphics, because they're really, really good.
I think they've always been good.
Going back to F1 as well, too, I did like how they put the interval on sometimes, and we get wasted. Everyone gets annoyed with the interval amount it is, but it was good to see when they had they focused and they had it on for a while. The soft and the hard, the medium and hard tires for the F1 cars, they held on to them a little bit longer. You could actually look at the comparison of the drivers rather than just saying, "Oh, he's on soft. Oh, for God's sake, I've got to wait another minute again before I can see what the other one was on hard." So at least the timings are a little bit better on that as well.
Okay, well, I think there was obviously, like as I said, so much happening. I mean, Mark, you had some, just quickly, you had some racing up at, what was it, Morgan
yes,
Park?
Yes, indeed. Queensland Raceway?
Queensland
Calder
Raceway?
Park. It's, QR's a little closer to me than Calder is, but QR, we had the ostensibly round 2 of the QRDEC, but it's really round 1 because Cyclone came through and ruined round 1 for us. But we had a pretty fabulous race meeting of our 2 of our domestic touring car series up here. Got some huge grids in replica tours and also the Queensland Touring Car Championship, and saw some pretty damn good racing go on there. We had the Margot Jones Memorial 1 hour race for HQs and Geminis, and that was a close run race indeed. Congratulations to Joe Andriski and Brandon Madden on their victory in the Harvey Towing HQ. Second place was Nick Rangeley and Ash Jarvis, who you might be familiar with in sports sedan circles, running the only Gemini in the race this year, just the one this year. And in one of the heat races, we had the nearest thing to a dead heat between Jarvis and it was Jake Madden, I think, in one of the other cars, one of the Kingswoods, where Ash Jarvis pulled off the Cam Waters side draft into the win across the checkered line that had across the across the finish line, and that one had to go to the timing system. And earlier, on the Saturday, we had the closest race finish I have ever seen at Queensland Raceway, 0.0009 of a second, 9/10,000ths of a second separated Gareth Crisp and Tim Weir in a supercar race across the line at Queensland Raceway. They could not be split visually. It had to go to the timing system, and we had some fabulous racing. It was also a 1 hour race for production sports cars, which was won by Jake Donaldson in one of the Carrera Cup cars. It was going to be won actually by Lachlan Harburg, who'd got a ring-in co-driver by the name of Oscar Target, who's been finishing. He's the reigning Porsche Sprint Challenge champion, and they were looking really good to get the win there in Harvick's Porsche, but unfortunately gearbox issues took the car out of the race, there was we had in other bits and pieces over there, Matt Campbell is continuing his great run in the IMSA sports car series over in the US at Long Beach, supporting the IndyCars. And Matt and his co-driver Matt Jaminet came home second behind their teammates Felipe Nasser and Nick Tandy. Nick Tandy has won. It's been exposed in the last 6 months or so that Nick Tandy has actually won everything in the history of ever, including presumably some football championships around the world, and we probably find that he's won like an Oscar in something. But I did have something else. Oh, what was it? Oh, of course, the Goodwood. There was some heart palpitations for legendary preparer of pre-war, when I say pre-war, pre-World War One, not World War II race cars. Mark Walker, unrelated to a very busy Australian photographer, Mark Walker.
Max Walker's brother. Sorry, couldn't help.
Father more than brother, I would have thought, but no. Mark Walker races a Darragh 200 HP in historic mode in the SF Edge Trophy for Edwardian race cars. They had an enormous grid of over 30.
Amazing?
Yeah, and the youngest car in the race was, I think, 108 years old.
Yeah,
Did I see also a Jag E-Type went into a wall as well too? I think at one stage.
They've had over the years they've had it because they take it very seriously and they certainly push it. I mean, really hard there. But look, that was great. If you haven't seen that, any of that, the Goodwood streams, the streams are all up on the Goodwood YouTube channel. By all means,
the important thing is that Walker is fine. He's okay.
So unfortunately,
that was a nasty accident, but he's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, look, as I said, we spoke about it, we really haven't covered IndyCar, we haven't covered a whole bunch of things, but we will be here forever, and we can't be here forever, so we're going to wrap it up right now. Now, just quickly to remind you, as I said, Channel 31 Melbourne, Friday night at 8 o'clock, our second episode of The Tune-Up with Doc and Mel, our new co-host. So Doc flying along with Melinda Teal, who did a great job. So Doc and Melinda are on this weekend with our band Jasper Hill, and also.
And they were sensational. If you like your punk rock and you like it loud and you like it fast, jump on. Yeah, catch that. They were brilliant.
Yeah, we've got some fabulous bands coming up. The band we recorded last week were unbelievable, very professional, and we got another really good band coming up that we're filming tomorrow night as well. So we've got lots of really great acts coming up on the tune-up, 8 o'clock Friday nights on Channel 31. And in terms of in-pit lane stuff, as we said, Doc and I went out to the drag boats. I've had some major technical problems also. With the computer here, so at this stage I haven't been able to. I really did want to try and get stuff out by Monday, but basically my week has been sort of sitting in waiting rooms pretty much for the whole of this week, and that's what I'm doing tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Once again, I'm back there again, sort of sitting in a waiting room, so. I really just don't have time to sort of get to a lot of these things at the moment. Hopefully one way or another it will be sorted. I will get better and I will be able to do stuff again, or I will die, and that's going to be someone else is going to have to push the buttons. Okay, we're going to see. We're going to wrap it up. And then, speaking of dying, this stream is about to die in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy Easter.
Bye-bye,
enjoy
everybody.
your fish and indulge in your chocolates.